Islamic world in Africa where black slaves are still being sold.
In this video, a man at the speaker corner called Bob gave this Muslim a terrible whooping and a history lesson at the end of it. Enjoy.
So are you saying that with Christianity comes peace? Yeah?
So, ladies and gentlemen,
What about the Crusades?
the question was, and if you interrupt the answer, you'll find that you don't get to ask another question. The question was, am I saying that with Christianity comes peace? No, I'm not. I'm saying with Christ comes peace. But then the question was, what about the Crusades?
Yes, sir.
So let me answer that directly.
Answer it.
The Crusades were launched after 7 centuries of constant Islamic aggression. Before the very first crusade was launched in 1095, Muslims had invaded the following Christian lands. They had invaded Christian Syria, Christian Jordan, Christian Palestine, Christian Egypt, Christian Algeria, Christian Libya, Christian Morocco, Christian Portugal, Christian Spain, Christian France, Christian Sicily, Christian Turkey, Christian Armenia, Christian Italy, all before the first crusade. The Crusades are a legitimate response to Islamic aggression and Islamic violence. I don't need to hear any lectures about the Crusades from people who support Islamic colonialism, Islamic imperialism, Islamic dominion and Arabization. Any other questions about any aspect of Christian history, Christian belief, Christian values, traditions? This is your opportunity. Any questions? Gone.
Let me stop there and talk about this. Now, I'm not in support of the crusade per se. I'm not in support of killing of human beings, because Jesus from the scripture showed us that it's best to live at peace with all men, and at the same time he also showed us that justice is of God. But at the same time, he did not say that we should become defenseless. He did not say that we should become people that just allow anything to happen to your land just because somebody is saying that he's not a Christian, then he comes and attacks your land. No. If you were to check the Crusades, now I like to prefix that I'm not in support of war. I'm not in support of any of those things. But if you were to check what happened, you will see that Islam is always the aggressor. Most of the wars you see happening now, you will see that Islam is always the aggressor. I heard a prime minister of a country say he cannot allow Islamic people enter his country. Why? He said everywhere they have documented the Islamic people entering, once they become 15% of the population, they want to take over. That is, you enter another person's land, and when you say they want to take over, it's not they want to use their culture to gently take over, which, by the way, every culture wants to become the primary culture in the place. But that is not Islam's way. Islam's way is the sword. They will use terrorization. They will use any way possible, because to them, it doesn't matter as long as you get the land. That is why when you see the crusades happening, now, like I said, another thing that you must know about many of these things is that Christ is not always the one in charge. Let me put it like that. Most of these things are human endeavors. So even though the crusades, I would say part of it, it's not right, including the things that are happening in Israel. I'll say part of it is not right. But the other part is, if you decide to stand behind this particular religion called Islam, you decide to follow it to the core, you will see that it is a purely hateful and destructive religion. If not, Hamas will not be using people as human shield, using children as human shield, using women as human shield, and then be calling Israel's name and say, Israel, you are not doing right. Israel is this, Israel is that. No, Israel, no. We can't accept that. Islam has always been guilty of this. They will strike. When you strike back, because they don't have energy, they will surrender, and then they'll say you are the aggressor. But when you listen to the Quran, you will hear places where it says, if you are in charge, don't give up, don't surrender your soul. So I'm not in support of the crusade per se, but as a retaliation for what the Muslims kept on doing, there's almost nothing we can say about that. Let's continue this video.
So you spoke about the crusades.
Yep.
Is it the same situation with the slave trade? Because they use Christianity to convert Africans and then bring them along in ships to the Americas.
Okay.
What did Islam have to do with that?
So he asked the question, what does Islam have to do with the slave trade?
Okay.
No. Wait.
Yeah, I'm going to address your full question. Let's be clear. Before the European slave trade of the 1600s, 1700s, and 1800s that happened in West Africa, the Islamic slave trade had existed in the Muslim world for nearly 14 centuries prior. For nearly, ladies and gentlemen, for nearly 11 centuries, Muslims had taken slaves across Africa, across Europe, and had taken them into the Muslim world. And all through the time that Europeans practiced slavery, for the full 300 years of the European slave trade, Muslims continued to practice their own slave trade. They continued to kidnap people from Europe. They continued to kidnap people from Indonesia, people from India, people from Afghanistan, people from Africa, and take them into the Islamic slave markets to trade them as slaves. They did this because Muhammad was a slave trader who bought slaves and sold slaves. Christians, however, have ended the slave trade multiple times at different parts of history, at different geographies around the world for the last 2,000 years. The most recent example was when William Wilberforce and the anti-slave traders convinced the British Empire, using Christian arguments, to end the British slave trade. The British Royal Navy then sacrificed blood and resources to end the slave trade around the world, including inside the Islamic world. Ladies and gentlemen, now notice, the Muslim that asked the question didn't even bother to listen to the answer, because that's how they do it. They're not interested in what you've got to say. All that they want to do is try and make a polemical point, and then they're not interested in anything you have to say afterwards.
Let me stop there. This is also, oh my God, this is also very, very powerful. You see, when they talk about slavery, especially people that are anti-Christian talk about slavery and they use the Old Testament and other things about the Christian history to talk about slavery. They keep forgetting that the person that is pushing for anti-slavery, that actually ended slavery and made it something that we can talk about today, are actually the Christians. But you see, many people are ignorant of history. The only thing they have is hatred for God, hatred for Jesus, and they want to just translate that into something that is not what it is. Let's continue this video.
Because they don't like the truth. Why did Christians try to abolish the slave trade? Because our example is Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ, in a time when slavery was normal, never had a slave.
Let us stop there. Jesus never had a slave, but Muhammad had slaves. He had Bilal as a slave. Even when he died, Bilal was still a slave. Bilal had to say, is it Abu Bakr now? I've forgotten who was talking to, where he had to say, if you gave me for their God's sake, let me go. He had so many slaves, including sex slaves. What a shame. Let's continue.
Never bought a slave and never sold a slave. But on the contrary, he said, I have come to set the captives free. And that is why Christians, inspired by the words of Jesus, even today go into the Islamic world in Africa, where black slaves are still being sold. In Africa, all of you black Muslims that try to lecture us about the slave trade, why are you silent about Africans being sold as slaves in Africa? And it's Christians, like Christian Solidarity Worldwide, that go into the Islamic world to buy little black children and set them free from their Muslim slave masters.
Oh my God, I have to pause on that. Oh my God, I've never seen that video before. Oh my God. Oh my God. Islam is a cancer. Islam is a cancer. Oh my God. Let's continue the video.
Worldwide that go into the Islamic world to buy little black children and set them free from their Muslim slave masters. Any other questions?
I will stop here for the video. What do we learn from this video? Number one, we see that Muslims don't really care about the answer. All they care about is just saying something, trying to give a quick, witty retort, but they don't want to face the truth. Almost everywhere in the world, slavery has stopped, but it's still going on in the Islamic world. In the Islamic world is one of the highest realm of racism among the Islamic people. In fact, that time in Qatar World Cup, I think if you were following it, you will see what really happened, how they treated black people. Up till now, they still don't respect black people. Even though majority of the Muslims now are blacks. What an irony. What an irony. When it comes to slavery, when it comes to crusade, when it comes to killing, when it comes to war, nobody compares to the Muslims. Nobody compares to them. That is why what is happening in Hamas, in Palestine, those people, they are trying to use the word, trying to confuse what is really happening there. I stand with Israel. You might not like what I have to say, but that is what I have to say. If you like this video or more, you want more videos like this, just like, share, comment. See you in the next one.